I'm striving to get rich. That's why I always went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
The Chicago Bears currently sit at the 20th overall pick in this upcoming 2021 NFL Draft. One of the key positions that they needed to address coming into this offseason is the quarterback position. Even with the signing of Andy Dalton, I still don't think the Chicago Bears quarterback situation is solved. So that leads me to one question. Should the Chicago Bears move up in the NFL Draft to select Justin Fields? Let's discuss this topic. Without further ado, let's dive into it. The Bears offseason pretty much has been an up and down situation. The quarterback position up to this point has still not been solved, even with the signing of Andy Dalton, even with still having Nick Foles on this roster. The Bears are going to still need to address the quarterback situation in this NFL Draft. And with the top 3 spots in the NFL Draft already being locked up, with Trevor Lawrence going number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Zach Wilson going number 2 to the New York Jets, and the rumors are coming out that the 49ers at number 3 are looking between Trey Lance and Mac Jones. So that's going to leave Justin Fields dropping in the NFL Draft. And I've said all along through this draft process, and even through the points of last season, that Justin Fields is the number 2 quarterback in the NFL Draft. Despite all the moving pieces that has taken place, whether it's been the Sam Darnold trade to open up the quarterback position for the Jets, whether it's been the San Francisco 49ers moving up to 3, I still believe firmly that Justin Fields has the biggest upside in this draft outside of Trevor Lawrence. And I really feel the Chicago Bears moving up in the draft to select them will solve the quarterback problems. But the trade might be a little tricky, especially if the Falcons actually do decide to move back. You're going to have to jump ahead of the Denver Broncos at 9 because, in all intents and purposes, they are still in need of the quarterback because Drew Lock has really not been the answer for them. So the Bears are either going to look to that number 4 spot if the Falcons do decide to trade back, or I think you're going to have to jump ahead of the Denver Broncos at 9 and get Carolina at 8. Detroit sits at 7, but it's probably going to be unlikely that they're going to do that type of business with the team within their own division. So if you're looking at 2 possible spots that the Bears could move up to get Fields, it will be at number 4 and it will be at number 8. In any of those trades, you're going to have to involve, of course, that 20 pick. You're probably going to have to involve another first-round pick in next year's draft, probably with some third or second-round picks, either in this draft or in next year's draft. And the Bears have been intendedly looking to trade Anthony Miller, so I think he's going to be a piece that might be thrown into a trade if the Bears do decide to move up and select Fields. Now let's talk about the possibility of Fields being on the Bears and 2 being that quarterback 1. Even though I think the Andy Dalton signing could be valuable, I still think that it was a band-aid, it was a patch over the Bears quarterback situation. Because they failed to strike a deal with Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, the Deshaun Watson deal was pretty much off the table with the things that he has going on. They did not strike a deal with Detroit to get Matthew Stafford. In all intents and purposes, they did not offer for Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. So they had to settle, I think, on Andy Dalton in free agency. Even though I think Andy Dalton can be valuable, but I don't think he's valuable in a QB1 starting role from game 1. Even though I think he could be the backup that comes in, whether it was injuries, he could be the guy that comes in and plugs and play, but he does not solve that situation for the Bears going forward. You bring in Justin Fields, I think that gives this offense a lot more to work with than with Andy Dalton. Because number 1, Justin Fields has that mobility running a 4.4 40 in his pro day. So he's able to move around, especially behind the Bears offensive line that still returns Charles Leno Jr., who struggled the last 2 seasons. You bring back Jermaine Fatty, which he had his struggles this past year. The interior of the Bears offensive line is pretty good. But when you're talking about Ifedi and Leno at the two tackles who's been absolutely struggling the past 2 years, I really feel having that quarterback that can make plays happen outside of the pocket, having that quarterback you can use in RPO situations, you can use him in part of your running game, I think that brings a totally different dynamic versus having Andy Dalton, who's not as mobile and is, at this point of his career, more of a pocket passing quarterback than he is a bit of mobility like he was in the first few years of his career. Even though I've been one on this channel to say I don't trust Matt Nagy, I really feel you bring in a guy like Justin Fields, and that could change the way the Bears have to call plays, that could change the dynamic of this offense, that can bring you a different level of play versus a guy who's stationary in the pocket. Well, of course, Andy Dalton does have that experience. He does not have that athletic ability that most quarterbacks have in the era, that switching more towards that quarterback that can have some mobility versus a quarterback that is very stationary. So I think the Bears offense with Justin Fields, it brings an entirely different dynamic. And I think it moves the needle a bit more than having Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, to say the least, at your quarterback position. In which I honestly think it was a bad move by the Bears to promise Andy Dalton that he could be the starting quarterback day one, if all intents and purposes they do move up in the draft to select Justin Fields. Where in a role I think Andy Dalton could be more valuable is to help groom Justin Fields, have him speed up the offense, especially since Andy Dalton's familiarity with Bill Lazor with his time in Cincinnati. Help Justin Fields become that pro. Help Justin Fields with a lot of different things that it takes to become an experienced quarterback, and also to be a productive quarterback and learn the nuances of the NFL. Andy Dalton, I feel, could be a very valuable person in that role versus on the field, especially with two tackles who've been known to struggle, and Andy Dalton having a bit of injury history the past couple of seasons. So when you look at this Bears offense with a Justin Fields, you can have him with Allen Robinson, you can have him with Tarik Cohen back, you can have him with David Montgomery, Damian Williams, who they signed this offseason, who could be productive out of the backfield. You have him with Darnell movie speed, and with Justin Fields' ability to throw the deep ball accurately. I really feel in this offense, you plug in a Justin Fields, and I really feel that moves the needle more in the right direction for the Chicago Bears offense than it would Andy Dalton. Justin Fields' ability to throw on the run, his ability to make plays happen, his ability to scramble, run the football, I really feel that will bring this Bears offense to a different level than it would a stationary quarterback in Andy Dalton with two tackles who have been proven not to be consistent. Even though I feel the Bears still will have to commit to a running game, I think you add the athletic ability of Justin Fields, you add the RPO ability that Justin Fields have, I think that can really boost your running game for the Bears. Even though I still feel a way about Matt Nagy committing to it, I think it becomes more of a strength when you have a quarterback with the speed and a dynamic ability that you have in a Justin Fields. So the Bears moving up in the draft to select Justin Fields, I think will be the best option outside of sitting at 20 and selecting a tackle. I really feel that the Bears need to move up to select Justin Fields. And I will bring a little bit of my personal side in it. As me being an Ohio State fan and me being a diehard Bear fan, I would absolutely love to see Justin Fields put on that blue and orange Bears uniform. Of course, I will be happy. I'll probably be doing dances and all type of stuff if the Bears actually do draft Justin Fields. And I'm not just saying this as a biased thing, but when you look at it on the field, it makes the absolute most sense as far as bringing this Bears offense to another level, because you need to be better than 29th that you were in 2019. You were 22nd in 2020. You need to find something that will bring a dynamic element to this Bears offense. And I think the best thing to do is bring the dynamic athletic ability and the game-changing ability that Justin Fields will bring to the Chicago Bears offense. He can be dynamic in the running game and as well in the pocket and outside of the pocket, throwing the football with these Bears receivers. You have Kmet at the tight end position, who I still think is up and coming. And with the Bears running backs and the ability of Tarik Cohen out of the backfield, the ability of Damian Williams out of the backfield. So you plug in a Justin Fields, you take this offense to another level than you would by staying put, drafting a tackle. Even though tackle is a need, I think you need to change the quarterback position from Andy Dalton to one Justin Fields. But that is all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys leave this video a like. That continues to help this channel to grow. Comment your thoughts down below and keep the conversation going on your thoughts of the Bears' possibility of moving up to select Justin Fields. And if you have gotten to this point in the video, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you will not miss a video. But I am APW Sports signing out. Thank you guys for the love and support that you have shown this channel. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great and excellent day. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.